Hello, and welcome back to this three-part workshop all about thoughts. I hope that session one was useful for you. So we were really just setting the foundations there of understanding our thoughts better, of getting more familiar with our mind and the role that it plays and really what its objective is, which is primarily to keep us safe, and the thoughts that arise as a result of that. And I hope that it just has helped you to become more aware of what might be happening in your mind and why you might have certain types of thoughts. And also the exercise was designed to help you deepen your awareness and connect it to your own personal experience. So if you did do the exercise, then hopefully that has been useful for you as well. Now, today's session is going to be a bit different. We're going to initially I'll be talking you through some concepts, and then we'll be practicing a couple of exercises which will help you actually kind of get a real felt sense of some of the things that I'm going to be talking about, really, some of these ideas. So this is probably not best watched in a cafe or basically anywhere that you're not going to feel comfortable doing a meditation style exercise. So both of them are best done with your eyes closed. So if you can, be somewhere where you're comfortable to close your eyes, preferably where you're undistracted or where it's quiet. So if you're able to do that, then that is what I would really recommend for this session. So what we're talking about today, which I touched on last time, is this idea that you are not your thoughts, that you instead are the observer of your thoughts. Now, a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today are taken from a type of therapy called ACT therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. So a lot of these concepts, it kind of ACT therapy heavily draws on mindfulness, which is an Eastern philosophy. It's an Eastern approach to yourself and to understanding your sense of yourself and your mind and your thoughts and your inner world and your emotions. So I'll be referring to a couple of concepts that ACT therapy references a lot. So you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. What does that mean? Well, what I want to first of all demonstrate is that we know that you are not your thoughts because you can look at your thoughts, you can think about your thoughts, you can talk about your thoughts. Now, we're not in a room together, but let's take the example of this door behind me. I can see that door, I can look at that door, I can talk about that door is separate from me. And I therefore know that I am not that door. And your thoughts are the same. Yes, they're inside you, they're in your mind, they're being produced internally, and only you can really experience or hear or see your thoughts. But everybody's different. Some people really hear their thoughts, very auditory. Some people it's more visual. They can literally imagine their thoughts kind of running through their mind like words. Whichever it is, or sometimes thoughts can come in the form of images as well. Whenever we have an image of something happening, I was about to say real or imagined, but actually when it's in our mind, it's always imagined. Okay, so whenever we experience these things happening in our brain, in our mind, you're the only one that can see it, but nonetheless, you are able to view it. You are the observer, you are the one watching. Except for sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes it feels as if you are right in the middle of your thought. It feels as if you are fused with your thoughts. It feels as if you and your thoughts are the same, that you're one. But we know that everybody can objectively look at their thoughts, and therefore they are distinct from them, they're separate from them. We also know that we have so many thoughts every day, thousands and thousands of thoughts every day, and lots of them are going to contradict one another. You might sometimes have thoughts about yourself that are really positive. You might think, oh, this is, I'm doing really well. I did well in that today, for example. And then 10 minutes later, you might have a thought, oh, I've done a terrible job today. I really messed that up. We know that both those things can't be completely and fully and wholly accurate and true, and we know that those things are not you. You are distinct from your achievements, from your levels of productivity, from what you do and don't do on a day-to-day basis. None of that stuff is who you are. So we know that our thoughts are internal, but they are not us. They are not you. You are not your thoughts. Now, it's all very well me kind of saying this, but it might not mean a whole lot to you. So what I want to do is now help you to kind of cultivate this gap. So I talked last time about the idea that if this is you, these are your thoughts, it feels as if it's like this, and actually it's like this. But I want to now help you experience that gap and cultivate and encourage that gap more and more. So in other words, these exercises are going to help you embody that role of the observer, and you are the observer. We all are the observer of our own experience, but we have to pause and allow ourselves to fit into that role. Sometimes in the Western world, especially in amongst our busy lives, if we, all that those bits we covered in the first session, if we've experienced a childhood in which we've had to manage our own problems a lot, maybe we've had to manage our own thoughts and feelings a lot, we haven't had any guidance on how to manage our emotions perhaps, then our thoughts become more friendly, our thoughts become safer. All of these compounding factors mean that it can sometimes not feel as if we're in that observer role of our thoughts. So we just can do a couple of exercises to kind of gently remind ourselves and kind of bring ourselves back home. So let's crack on with the first exercise. Now this one is called Leaves on a Stream. Okay, so what I want you to do first of all is to sit in a comfortable position. And you can either close your eyes, or if you don't want to close your eyes, you can rest them gently somewhere in the room, just on a kind of neutral spot in the room. I want you to visualize yourself sitting next to a gently flowing stream with leaves floating along the surface of the water. You just imagine that for me now. Now for the next few minutes, what I'm going to ask you to do is to take each thought that enters your mind and place it on a leaf, and then just let it float by. Now you're going to be trying to do this as best as you can with each thought. It could be a nice thought you have, it could be neutral, it could be painful, it could be an excited thought. Whatever it might be, you're just going to be placing them on a leaf and letting them float by. Now, from time to time, your thoughts might hook you, distract you from being present in this exercise and from being able to do this, and you'll kind of follow your thoughts, and that's normal. But as soon as you realise that you're doing that, then just gently bring your attention back to the exercise and back to placing your thoughts on the leaves. So if I give an example, and then we'll get started in a moment. If your mind says, this is stupid, or I'm bored, or I'm not doing it right, you just place those thoughts on the leaves and let it float by. One thought per leaf. And if you're finding you're experiencing lots of different thoughts, one after the other or on top of each other, that's okay. Just come back to yourself, put one on a leaf and the next on a leaf and the next on a leaf, and you're letting them just float past. And let the stream flow at its own pace. So I'm just going to go quiet now for a few minutes as you practice doing this. There's no right or wrong. I'm just going to give it a go. Thoughts about the exercise count as thoughts. Any thoughts count. You're just popping them on the leaf and letting them float past down the stream in their own time. If your thoughts momentarily stop or pause, just keep watching the stream. It's fine if your mind feels blank, if there's no thoughts coming. Sooner or later they will start up again. But it's fine, just watch that stream. Just watch the water rippling and just wait and just see what happens. You might notice some thoughts reoccurring, coming back again and again, and just keep popping it on the leaf and letting it float past, letting it float past, letting it float past. You can keep doing it with the same thought. If you notice a leaf getting stuck, it won't quite go, just allow it to hang around until it's ready to float off. We're not forcing here, we're just allowing ourselves to take on board that natural role of the observer, and this is just a way that we can help our mind to do that. So we're not forcing, we're just popping our thoughts on a leaf and letting them float. You might notice some difficult feelings coming up for you. You can turn those into thoughts. I'm feeling bored. I'm feeling impatient. I'm feeling frustrated. And just pop them on the leaf and let them float off. And remember that from time to time, your thoughts might distract you. You'll follow your thoughts as we do day in, day out. You'll follow it into the middle of the thought, the content of it. We get kind of caught up, tripped up with it. That's normal. That's what the mind wants to do. But you can do something different. You are the observer. You can do something other than what your mind wants. And so you can bring yourself back to the exercise and back to just popping those thoughts on those leaves, floating down that rippling river. Okay, let's bring the exercise to a close there. Now, of course, you can practice this for longer. You can return to this video, this recording. There's also information, details about this exercise on the internet. Just Google leaves on a stream and you'll get some information about it there if it's something that felt kind of useful for you. But hopefully you got a bit of an experience there of watching your thoughts. Even if you could only do it very briefly, that's absolutely fine. The more we do this kind of practice, the more we cultivate that role of the observer. And we don't need to sit and do these specific exercises. We can do, but you can cultivate and embody that role of the observer on a daily basis, just when you're driving and you notice yourself thinking, oh, all these, everyone's so rude and terrible driving, and they're kind of, nobody's courteous anymore. And you just notice yourself having those thoughts. You just can pop them on a leaf and send it off down the stream. This stuff can be done as we're going through life, as we're washing up and we notice ourselves thinking all those thoughts about how we look today, or our weight, or our skin, or our hair, or we notice all of these thoughts, and we can just kind of let them float past. We don't have to sit in meditation to do this. We can just be mindful as we're moving through our day of our role of the observer. Just kind of remind ourselves, bring ourselves back home to that true role of the observer. So now what I want to do is another exercise. It's a bit of a different kind of exercise. Now I'm going to give you an example, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'll talk you through this example, and then I'd like you to do your own version of it, basically using your own example, because that's likely to feel much more powerful. Now, this is another way to step back from our thoughts, to unfuse ourselves, to defuse ourselves from our thoughts, okay? To again be stepping into that role of the observer. So I'm going to use an example here of the thought. This thought is going to be, I'm not confident enough. Okay, so I'm going to write this down here, and I'd like you to do the same in a moment with your own thought, okay, with your own example. So I'm not confident enough to do that. Okay, whatever that might be. I'm not confident enough to do that. So that's a thought. Now, this is normally where we stop, isn't it? We just have that thought, I'm not confident enough to do that. And then we kind of take it on board, we believe it, we think that's true, we think, yeah, I'm not confident enough. Okay, let me just forget it, let me just not bother, I don't know how to be more confident, it's just me, and then we spiral and so on. But instead of stopping there, let's take that thought and do something more useful with it. So next I'm going to say to myself, I'm having the thought, I'm not confident enough to do that. I'm having the thought, I'm not confident enough to do that. So there's a bit of distance. I now recognise it as a thought instead of a truth. Okay, and now let's do something one step on. I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm not confident enough to do that. I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm not confident enough to do that. So we're even further back now. And if this were a thought that I was really experiencing, that I really kind of battled with on quite a regular basis perhaps, this is going to be really bringing down the emotional impact of that thought. It's going to be massively diffusing the power of this thought, because what a powerful thought that seems at first. I'm not confident enough to do that. Okay, shut it down. Let's just not bother. Let's not even try. I'm fundamentally not confident enough. That's what that thought made me believe. But actually, I remind myself I'm having the thought that I'm not confident enough. And now I'm just noticing that actually. I'm one step back from that. I'm noticing that I'm having that thought, that I'm not confident enough to do that. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to take a moment to try to think of a thought that ideally it's something that kind of plagues you quite a lot. Just in case your mind is going blank right now, which often happens, doesn't it? We can be kind of bombarded with thoughts when we don't want them, and then when we want to conjure them up, they're nowhere to be seen. So just for some ideas, some inspiration, this could be the thought, I'm not good enough, I'm in the way, I'm a burden. It could be thoughts about your appearance, I look terrible, I'm overweight, I'm unattractive, I need to make more of an effort. This could be thoughts about your job, I'm going nowhere with my career, or my business is failing and I'm failing, I'm not reaching my potential, I'm not doing what I should be doing. It could be thoughts about your relationships. Nobody cares about me, nobody likes me, nobody really loves me, I'm all alone. So hopefully these thoughts might have triggered something for you that resonates. So let me just give you a moment now just to identify just one thought. Obviously you might have lots of different ones now, but just one thought that kind of resonates for you, that maybe kind of crops up a fair amount for you. Okay, so hopefully you have got a thought. If you haven't, just pause it here until you've got one. So now what I want you to do is to really engage with that thought. Okay, so really engage with whatever thought you've identified. I want you to really, really think it. If you want to, you could say it out loud if that feels more powerful. But just really kind of engage with it for a moment. And now I want you to think it again or say it again. But this time, before it, you just put, I'm having the thought. And then whatever the thought is. I'm having the thought, and then whatever the thought is. And just really engage with that for a moment. And just notice how that might feel in your body, if it feels any different than when you originally just thought the thought itself. Okay, and now I want you to say out loud or in your head, I'm noticing that I'm having the thought, and then the thought. Okay, so however you've been engaging with it, whether internally or out loud, I'm noticing that I'm having the thought, and then just notice how that feels in your body, if any different. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful in demonstrating the power of taking that step back, creating the gap, becoming the observer, remembering that you're the observer. You always are, but remembering that you're the observer. And just creating that distance between that original thought that feels like truth, but it's not, it's just a thought. So that can be a really nice exercise to do, especially with those criticisms of yourself that are, and worries as well, it works just as well with, that are persistent. What we want you to do is kind of take the sting out of them. We're taking the power out of them because they can feel really powerful. But that's a really quick exercise. We can do that wherever we are, whenever. That just reminds us of the distance that actually exists between us and our thoughts. So now I'm going to do the third and final exercise, which is more similar to the first one. Okay, so this is just another way really of watching our thoughts, of getting into that role of observing, of seeing, of viewing, of watching from a distance. Now, I will invite you to prepare a start by closing your eyes if you feel comfortable to. I have to say with this one, it is quite useful to close your eyes if you do feel able to. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable to, that's absolutely fine, but do try to close your eyes if you can. Now imagine yourself lying down on some grass. It's a spring day, slightly windy sky, and you're looking up. You can see all the clouds passing by. Imagine the blue sky. It looks fresh. Now take a deep breath in through your nose and pay attention to your mind. And then a long breath out through your mouth. Now just start noticing your thoughts. And now imagine that your thoughts are written on the clouds. Just one thought per cloud. You can summarize your thoughts so they're brief or just in a couple of words. They can be longer thoughts, bigger clouds. We're doing this without judging them, without getting involved in the content of the thought. We're not worried about doing that because we just want to pop them up on the cloud, just see them going past on the cloud, just one thought for every cloud. Imagine how the windy sky makes the clouds go away. And your thoughts, one by one, slowly leave the sky. So maybe the first cloud might have the words, "This is pointless," written on it. Next, you might be thinking about whether you locked your door this morning. So the next cloud might say, "Locked door?" ? Whatever the content of the thought, it doesn't matter. On it goes onto the cloud. Notice how the clouds carry away the thoughts. Now some of the clouds might feel quite dark and quite heavy. They might be rain clouds. They're still going to pass through the sky. Those thoughts, those difficult, heavy, dark thoughts are still going to pass through your mind because that's what they do. They just come in and then they go out again. So I'm just going to go quiet for a couple of minutes here and just keep being aware of your thoughts in your mind. Continue to imagine that they're written on these clouds, the clouds that are floating away in the sky. Okay, I'm going to bring the exercise to a close there. You come back into the room, you open your eyes, just ground yourself a moment, just on the chair that you're on, just kind of Maybe hold the sides of the chair a bit more, kind of press down into the chair, just coming back fully into your body. Now, again, this isn't something that you have to practice in this way. It's just useful to do these exercises to really start getting that felt sense and that experience of observing your thoughts rather than being in your thoughts. But it's really just about fully engaging with this idea that the content of your thoughts are actually irrelevant. We have so many of them, and in essence, a thought, having the thought, what if my dog dies tomorrow? Whilst it's a more distressing topic, the thought itself is just as relevant as a thought, I like satsumas, which is not very relevant and not very important. But we tend to get particularly caught up in these more difficult thoughts. We call them sticky thoughts. We get more caught up in these thoughts about more emotive topics because they come with more emotion. So then our mind kind of reacts more strongly to them. We react more strongly to them. We then either focus on them or we try to push them out of our mind. When we try to push something out of our brain goes, wait, there's something up with this. Something's going on with this thought. Let's keep it put. Let's keep it where it is so that we can use it if we need to. I don't know why this is different, this thought, than any other. And then so the thoughts we actively try to push out of our brain, our mind, they get stronger and stronger and louder and more persistent. So actually these kinds of exercises like leaves on a stream or clouds in the sky, they can really help with just experiencing that kind of sensation of noticing your thoughts, no matter what the topic, no matter if the thoughts are negative in nature, positive in nature, happy, funny, silly, dark, scary, sad. All of them belong up in those clouds floating through the sky, because that's what happens in your mind when we let it happen. Our thoughts just float in and they float back out again, or they're like the leaves on the stream, they're just floating along. It's in motion, it's in flux. That's how we're designed. Our brain, our emotions, it's all about being in flux. It's all about movement. You know, nature doesn't like stagnancy. We're not designed to get stuck on certain types of thoughts or emotions. We just, when we allow it to happen, they kind of float in and float out, and that motion kind of keeps going as long as we let it. And all the while, so, you know, our thoughts are kind of going like this, they're sort of floating in and out, and all the while we are here, and we are us, and, you know, we are made up of so much more than our thoughts here, but we can just kind of let our thoughts float in and out and do their business, do their thing, without getting caught up in the content of them, in the specifics of them. So I really hope that this has been a helpful session for you. Now, as I said, you can kind of rewatch this. As a reminder, you get access to this recording for a week from when it was released. So that takes us up to, for this was going to be on the second day, so that's on the 5th, so you'll get access to this until the 12th. So unless if you are already in the membership, or if you sign up to the membership, then this workshop is going to be in there permanently, in which case you obviously have access to it whenever. But just to be aware, if you did want to return to any of these exercises, you'll just have that week unless you're in the membership. So hopefully this has been useful to really remind yourself, come back to yourself as the observer, as you rightfully are, rather than as somebody kind of at the mercy of their thoughts, which you are absolutely not. And I will see you tomorrow, and we're going to be doing some other bits tomorrow where we'll be kind of wrapping up really what we've talked about over these last couple of sessions. So I can't wait to see you then. Take care.